Feeling misaligned with the systemized mode of thinking in the corporate world? Well, if you do feel that way, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Career Coffee Chat Show, my friends. I'm your host, Aaron Urban. Now, if you've never seen my smiling face before, you can find out more about me at coachyurban.com. And feel free to subscribe to my YouTube channel under Coachy Urban and get instant access to all the Career Coffee Chat shows and be notified when new shows are scheduled. Now, if you're watching live, don't be shy. Say hi, my friends. Share where you're from. I would love to welcome you to the show today and encourage you to ask questions. I'm here to help you elevate, my friends. So today we have a great discussion lined up for you that comes with a warning label. Because once you start to see the world differently, you will never be the same. Are you prepared? It's almost like The Matrix. If you've ever seen the movie The Matrix, are you going to take the blue pill or the red pill? So if you're prepared to rip the blindfold off and step out of the system into success, you're in the right place. Our guest, Ken Hannaman, proposes that the archaic systems we live by and work by do not serve our goals. They actually get in the way. But why? And most importantly, how can we make the mindset shift to fuel success? So come on in, pull up a chair, and join us in this interesting discussion about what systemized thinking is, where it comes from, and how it's sabotaging you. We share how you can take back your own power, leverage your gifts, and tap into that native intelligence and take the leap to achieve more than you've ever realized. Now, about my awesome guest, he's an author, mindset coach, and host of the Ungraduated Living and Learning Podcast. He recently released a new book, Ungraduated, Finding Your Why and Dropping Out of an Outdated Belief System. So join me in giving Ken a warm welcome to the show. Great to have you on today, Ken. Good to see you.
Great to be here, Aaron, and everybody else. Let's have some fun, open dialogue. Don't be afraid to ask anything. Aaron already mentioned my all-time favorite movie, The Matrix trilogy. Watched it in '99. Didn't even know why I loved it so much back then.
Right.
Now I know why.
Now we know why. Because it really hit on that nerve that, am I being programmed? Is everything I'm like experiencing actually a all made up reality? I mean, what's going on? So yeah, we're not quite proposing that everything you're experiencing isn't true. And there might be a little bit more programming than you realize. So, Ken, I'm really curious to know, what was that aha moment for you? Was it the Matrix? Was that the moment you're like, oh, that's it, we're all being programmed? Oh my God. Or was it something else?
No, actually, I loved the movie, but I thought it was just at the time in '99, just a great sci-fi flick, which I'm a sci-fi geek myself. So the more I watched it, I'm like, this kind of makes some sense. But it wasn't until actually quite later. For me, I had the great fortune of being young and being successful and coming from a not a whole lot to having a lot, at least by the defined system, what it means to be successful.
Right.
That's different for everybody. But at the age of about 25, I had already achieved success in the corporate world and was leading multiple restaurants and started to have that unfulfillment feeling of, okay, I have a house, I have a car, I have a good life. I have enough money in the bank to pay the bills. And that's important. You have to reach a certain level of self-actualization. And once you do, the problem with a lot of people in this program is they begin to look for the other things that make them happy, the external things that make them happy that the system likes us to pay attention to, all the bright, shiny objects, which are nice to have.
Acquiring more things.
Yeah, we're here to live and experience, and that's great too. But along with that came some health issues that were just self-perpetuated by my own anxiety and stress. And I didn't like that at a young age with anxiety attacks and panic attacks, things that I was doing to myself with overworking and working too hard, not needing to. So I started to question a lot. And that's where it all began for me. I'd say around the age of 25. I'm 42 now. As the sun beats down on my face, it makes my fair complexion look a little bit better than perhaps what it actually is. But yes, it's been about 15 to 20 years of learning and just self-internalizing, and began about 25, and that's why.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic, and in a double-edged sword kind of way. But I feel you. And for those of you either tuning in live or listening to the replay or listening to the podcast, let me know, what do you feel like? I mean, I hear it from a lot of people. Almost all my clients are feeling burned out and overwhelmed. And while some of that is a quote unquote sign of the times, a lot of it has to do with how we feel like we need to show up in our work and in our lives. And as you may hear later, I'm a person who obviously has been studying social psychology, neuroscience, etc., for many, many years. What I'm finding is that we're being programmed from a very young age, whether well-meaning or otherwise. We feel like we need to perform a certain set of tasks or behave a certain way. And in all honesty, you don't have to be successful. In fact, you might be even more successful if you don't. And I know for me, Ken, it was when I was in my mid-career, I had that quote unquote mid-career crisis where I was like, okay, I'm doing well. I'm very well received in my profession. I'm well known. I was already all over LinkedIn as an author and writing articles and being asked to speak and yada, yada, yada. And my next step was executive level. And to do that next step in my industry at the time, and I think it still holds true to this day, you had to travel 80% of the time. And I knew that wasn't going to fly. Not for me, not for what I prefer my life to be. So I had a choice. I was like, well, I can try it out and see, you know, what happens, which is probably what I think is going to happen, but let me at least try. And it didn't work. So I started setting myself up to step out of the corporate world and start to do my own thing.
Very much aware of what that feels like. I'm still there. I have the one foot in, and while my company is extremely supportive of what I do, they certainly welcome and they think it's great that I'm doing this. They still want me to continue to climb that corporate ladder. And I'm at a point now where I'm in charge of hundreds of restaurants in corporate America, but I love the teaching. I love this coaching and perspective aspect of life. And it's what drives me and fills my cup and gets me out of bed every day. This here isn't work. So a lot of this on my spare time that I create, I'm able to do this passionately while also doing it to some level inside of the corporate space, but also knowing that that path may change for me because I'm a very directly involved with people individual. And as we were saying pre-recording, that's just what I love doing. So at a high enough level with all the travel and with financial goals and responsibilities, it's not really what is I'm after. So I'm still looking for that personal branding, which I'm creating now with Ungraduated Living and teaching people about the perspectives that I've been internalizing now for about 15 plus years that have made a lot of life impact. And it is true. Your belief systems, your mindset are being influenced, programmed, if you will, not always with bad intent, but people want to keep you more in line with what their thinking is instead of keeping or allowing you to break outside the box and get into your full zone of genius or potential, if you will. There's a fear component there too, which I'm sure we'll talk about perhaps.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And speaking of that zone of genius, obviously, as many of you have ever seen me before, that's what I talk about. And the zone of genius is not necessarily found by conforming to the quote unquote shoulds of the corporate world or even our society, because your gifts and talents and your strengths and what you bring to this world, and everybody has a gift that they can leverage, but it's not necessarily something you can just fit into a mold. And you're right, Ken. The powers that be, whether it be big corporate bosses or otherwise, they want us to think a certain way because it benefits them. Now, a lot of the programming we've received, from childhood, for example, has all been well-meaning, and it can also be as equally detrimental. It's amazing how many clients just this fall we've had this similar kind of conversation. Well, when I was a kid, I would come home and I would bring a 95. I always made good grades, but my father, mother would respond, "Oh, why not 100? Why not 105?" You know what that does, parents? That gives your kids a massive complex that then they have to unravel later on with a coach like me. So don't do that to your kids. You're actually traumatizing them. Appreciate their work that they're bringing home. Don't give them a "I'm never good enough" complex.
The system is set up with that more, and be better, be better, be better.
Do more. Strive for more. Hey, what's the adage? Work hard, play hard. Who does that benefit, I wonder?
Yeah, I'm okay with being your best self, but I'm also good with understanding whenever you are enough. and that you do not need to strive to push yourself over the edge. I'm all for goals. I'm all for dream big, but I'm also for reality and functionality and
Mhm.
balance, life harmony. And that's really what I think finding your zone of genius really means. And if anyone here has heard of Gay Hendricks and the Big Leap, and there's many other books that
Oh,
he's
yeah.
written, they're so good because that big leap, it's such a great conversation point. You have these
Mhm.
four zones: the zone of incompetence, which is the worst place to be when you're not even
Yeah.
competent and doing something you shouldn't be doing; the zone of competence, where you're okay at it, but it's not anywhere that you should be. It's mundane tasks that can be done by somebody else, but you're being paid for it. Then everybody thinks they make it when they hit that zone of excellence, where money's good and lifestyle's good, and there's this fear of getting into your zone of genius because you feel this hollowness, you feel this emptiness of, "My life's good," but you're still longing for more purpose, for more meaning,
Mhm.
and you're afraid often to step out of that zone of excellence because 'cause you're very good at what you do, but you're missing out on your true calling, your zone of genius or brilliance, and that takes a big leap, a big
Mhm.
step in that direction. And the system and the programming that we receive normally by a certain age is pretty well entrenched that businesses fail whenever you first start them, and hey, you're already comfortable, why rock the boat, all the
Oh, yeah.
things that
So and so is a great
did.
company to work for.
Yep,
How dare you?
yep.
Yeah, yeah. I can't believe you're unhappy. I mean, you make so much money. How could you not be happy? Hey,
I've heard it all.
newsflash, money doesn't equal happiness.
People hear that all the time. I mean, yes, money's a great tool that this world works off of, but people hear that often over cliched statement of money doesn't buy happiness, but they don't often believe it. And then when you do achieve some financial security, and I'm all for people having a great way of living and equality and being able to have the proper means, but it's the economy is set up to make you want more. Everything's in your face. You know, keeping up with the
Mhm.
Joneses is a real epidemic in this world, country, probably more than the world. I've traveled around and I've seen what true happiness with a lot less looks like. And that
Yes.
perspective was powerful. So when we think we don't have it right here in America, it's a very disillusioned point of view because we have
Mhm.
it much better than most. But we're always teaching, searching for more of that shiny new object. And as we know, we get it, whether it's a new house, car, toy, and that shiny object runs off in a couple of weeks, and we're looking for the next fix. Even the big businesses are set up that way, you know, with their marketing that every year you have to have a new one of these, you know, a new iPhone.
A new computer, and hey, at certain times of the year, if it's holiday season, then you've really got it going on, right? You're being
Yep.
hit with those Black Friday deals and all the things, all the new tech. Woohoo! Isn't this great? Don't you want to be the first? Yeah, it's all designed to make you want more. What's really really interesting is particularly if you're working in the corporate world, you're working for someone, maybe you're great at what you do, but not necessarily fulfilled, and you're just feeling kind of like empty inside. You're not really making. You don't feel aligned. You don't feel connected. It's something just missing. It's easy to get fixed on buying that thing or that acquisition theory, which is what we've been programmed to do, because it gives us a shot of dopamine. And dopamine is wildly addictive. And when you acquire something, you feel great for about a nanosecond.
Yep. It's that controlled obsolescence almost where everything that they're creating these days, and I don't blame them, they're in business to make money and they have to have strategies that keep them year after year with happy
Mhm.
shareholders and happy bottom line. So you can't create the best product from out of the gate because then you would never need to replace it. There's a truth to this story. I'll be brief with it, but the light bulb story. I don't know who all
Mhm. Oh,
listening may
yeah.
have heard of this. They made light bulbs to last a long time. There actually is a light bulb that still burns in a firehouse. I forget where I read this, but there's a 100-year plus burning light bulb with the filaments that were designed so greatly they didn't have to replace this bulb for over 100 years, and it still burns. And when they were creating the light bulb back in the 1800s or whatever time frame it was, they said this is a problem. We are not going to be able to make money if we create an everlasting light bulb. So we have to
Mhm.
make it weaker so that it breaks sooner. So they tested all these different filaments that burn out at a certain time to which they knew they had to be replaced. And this is the same for everything nowadays.
Yeah.
TV, phones, and you name it, things could be probably made with a lot more time and long-term tenure and workability. But why? Because then companies
Wouldn't
wouldn't
make
be able to
money.
make money.
That's right. They
So,
would be out of business because you couldn't replace. I mean, just
right.
look at the smart devices, right? These things, if there's nothing wrong with them, they don't go moldy like bread. I mean,
Exactly.
they might need an update or something like that to have the new operating system or whatever. But theoretically, if you really look at it, there's no reason why it should suddenly lose its ability to function,
I know.
which
And
it
then you
seems to
throw
do right about time you need, you stop paying for it.
then you throw on the peer pressure factor of
Mhm.
the label and status of, oh, you have an iPhone 7, you have a blah 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 phone, and you get like phone shamed because you don't have the newest phone because all your peers and friends do. And again, hey, I'm used to being the puzzle piece that doesn't fit, so I'm okay with that. Yeah, I do have a newer phone now because I dropped my old iPhone and it cracked and shattered, and it was a 7 when I actually had it, and I got this 14 now. So people are like, "Welcome to the new world," and I'm like, "It's still a dang phone that still
It's
does
about,
most
and
things
if they
the
make
other
phone
phone
calls.
did." A little more storage space on it, a little more storage space on it, but I still don't use it for a whole lot else besides phone calls and some emails and maybe a couple apps that I actually like. But I don't use the full capability of this very
Mhm.
expensive phone, quite frankly.
But don't you feel better for having it, Ken?
No,
Or say you stepped out
not
of the
so
system.
much.
It
In
it
the
it
first,
really
moment, I'm like, "Show me something that should make me feel like I have more status because of this, iPhone 14 that I happen to have," but there isn't any. It's just
no,
it's
you
that
don't get a gold
mental in your
star.
head.
No one goes over and gives you, a laurel wreath or anything
No.
like back in the ancient days. You don't get any of that. And what's really interesting is when you wake up as an individual in our society, when you wake up and realize this is going on, and maybe peripherally you probably already realized it, but you're just really not addressing it full front on. When you finally decide to do that, it can be very freeing. Because what's better than deciding for yourself what success is for you, not what it is for someone else? And let's take climbing the ladder, for example. Ken, you're climbing the ladder, right?
I've been
I
for
mean,
many
and
years.
God forbid you step out of climbing the ladder. I mean, what would be wrong with you? I mean, my goodness, you always have to climb the ladder. I mean, if you don't, then you're not a contributing member of society. You don't have any ambition. What? I mean, you're just not American and if you don't climb the ladder. Do you know how many people are miserable in leadership positions because they kept climbing the ladder? You don't have to climb the ladder. It's totally optional. I mean, just something simple like that. Maybe your talents and gifts and strengths, that's not where your zone of genius is. And it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. But we've been taught since we were old enough to hear anything and just process anything that that's the American dream.
Yeah, and I love my company that I work for now, and again, to my earlier point, they're supportive of what I'm doing, and I've made it very clear and open to them that I don't know what my future looks like, and it's a very freeing thing to say, and I love my boss. He's an amazing COO of our company, and he asks me all the time, "What do you wanna be whenever you grow up?" And I'm like, "Man, I'm 42. I don't know what growing up looks like, but I'm pretty grown up at this point." But yeah, I would be a younger, C-level executive if that were to happen, but being very open and honest with people, I think, is a very freeing and authentic way to live. A lot of people feel pressured to answer, well, yeah, of course I want to move up. And then it creates a mistrust because when that individual who's your boss comes to you and says, well, I thought you wanted to, and you're like, well, psych, just kidding. I didn't really mean that.
Well,
Then
that's
it's
what
like,
you wanted me to
well,
say.
yeah. So it's a very okay, freeing, authentic way to say, look, I'm okay being where I'm at right now. And I'm not saying don't knock on my door, but I'm saying right now I don't know. And that goes against the thought process of goal setting and having a development plan. And I'm not saying don't have goals, just have personal goals that are fulfilling that will lead you more into your zone of genius. And doesn't always mean you have to jump outside of the company and you have to start your
Mhm.
own things right away. You can find ways while you're still in that organization to make impact and then
Right.
work on your skill set, become more
Mhm.
within your zone of genius, have a currency that people begin to realize, and then more good things will come your way just automatically, probably, whether it's through more money, promotions, bonuses, opportunities that you can say no to if you want, or somebody else may, hear about your work or your important projects. And all of a sudden you're going to have the choice, the power of choice in front of you to do what you feel is best for yourself. So there is this thing of creating your own luck by being authentic, transparent, and honest. And as long as you're doing a good job, like I make sure to always fulfill my responsibilities. That's something I do well. I delegate and use my people, and I'm the maker of my own time and my own calendar, so I can do some of these things I'm doing on the side. But no matter what part of the system you're in or what corporate structure that you're in, there are ways to work into your zone of genius while you're in it and build up some safety nets, if you will. So if you do want to make a big step out and do your own thing, you certainly can do that. It's not like you have to risk it all and just make a jump with a leap of faith, although some do. But I'm more of a practical, let me think this through and plan this out before I make a big. So
right.
that's
And it
smart.
doesn't have to be all or nothing either.
Right.
And for some people that I coach, for example, in their zone of genius and in discovering that, their first question that they ask me is, well, how the heck do I know what my zone of genius is to begin with? Because they've been in this program mindset. Like a young gentleman I met at a holiday party. Well, what do you do? The usual question. Well, what do you do? How did you decide to get into engineering? Because I knew he was an engineer. I was like, how did you decide to get into engineering? I was told to do it.
I laugh, but that's more often than not the case.
It's very often the case. That's what I was told to do. I was like, well, okay, what did you want to do when you were younger? Well, I really like animals, and I wanted to be a veterinarian, but my family was all about accounting or engineering, and those are the only two professions apparently that existed. So I became an engineer. I was like, well, do you like what you do? No, I hate it. I'm miserable.
Sad truth across most of this country.
Okay, so what do you love about being a veterinarian? What do you love the most? So just in a casual conversation, I actually walked him into understanding what he could do to start giving himself some of that, zone of genius back into his life. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. And I was like, do you volunteer, at the SPCA or local animal adoption shelter or something like that now? He goes, well, yeah, I thought about that. And understanding more about what he attracted him to being a veterinarian. So I really want to help animals. I said, well, that's a great way to start doing that and start to get a little bit of that back into your life. And then you could consider, if you do want to make the massive step, go to vet school and step out. Lord knows veterinarians make plenty of money these days. So it wouldn't be necessarily a step back. But Ken, a lot of people are afraid of taking that step back.
Well, let me speak to that a little bit. I think, again, that's a status, that's a label, that is a false belief system. Okay. We've been groomed again that if you're not moving forward, to your point, climbing upwards, that the step back is a bad thing. And even when people do it, you'll always hear them defend it and try to rationalize it. Like you've heard of the downsizing with houses and stuff, and people have to defend why they're doing it so that they're not judged. This fear of being judged is something you have to remove from your mindset. But you really start with, there's this term called ikigai that I love, and it comes from Japan. And it really was based off of really what's the one thing that you get up with purpose to do. And it could have been back in the day, sowing the seed and plowing your farm and milking the cattle to put food on the table, whatever it was. But we've westernized this theme, and a lot of the corporate speak or leadership world now, it has it broken into 4 sections. But I like the view that it gives. It's, what do you love to do? What are you good at? And what can you be paid for doing those things? That's also a need, like a world need, a community need, a state need. It doesn't have to be some grand stage, but if you can find what you're good at, that you love doing, can earn a decent living doing, and that there's a need for it, that's what full purpose looks like. And to start thinking about what that zone of genius is, just pay attention to what people compliment you on. Pay attention. People are so hard on themselves with, oh, I'm not that good at that, or I'm not. You may know, and if you do, kudos to you. But if you're not, just ask people, hey, what do you appreciate? Or pay attention to what you get compliments on and what people thank you for doing. And then combine that with some passions, and you can find ways more often than not to earn a living doing it. If not within your current job, you can try to take those things and seek out if there is some different initiatives or objectives within your company that you could take those passions and work with. If there are none, say animals is the example, the ASPCA or whatnot, and that has no tie to your business, then yeah, volunteering, being in control of your time, making sure that you do set boundaries and don't take on too much so that you can have a day a week to volunteer. And then as you create those new networks and get to form different relationships, you never know what could come out of those at some point in time. But it's just with that first step, and people want to shoot that down because they think they can't make money doing it. They're mistaken. That's another misprogrammed belief, outdated belief system.
Well, one of the outdated belief system and the program belief system is, and the systemized thinking is that, well, I need to have a certain lifestyle, right? My kids need to go to a certain school. I need to have a certain size house. I have to drive a certain car. And I laughed at people when I first moved to Houston, Texas. I said, wow, the BMW has become the Corolla.
Yeah.
Houston. I mean, everywhere was a BMW. And it was because of the oil and gas bubble. And you had this lifestyle, this expectation. If you didn't drive a BMW, then it better be a Mercedes or an Audi. You had to drive a fancy vehicle. You had to have the certain lifestyle. You had to wear the certain clothes. Now, who determined that? Like, who said that's what you needed to do? So to fuel this lifestyle, you had to make this certain amount of money. You know how wildly freeing it is not to need to do any of that?
Yes, I do actually. I drive a Ford Explorer. It's a company Ford Explorer. It's a free car, folks. So there's nothing better in my life than a decent free car. It's not an Audi. It's not a Lexus. It's not a Mercedes. It is a free 2020. So it's almost 3 years old now, but free car that I don't pay for in gas or maintenance or anything else. If you can get that, that's the way to go. And I guess even better if you had a company car that's an Audi or a Lexus or a Mercedes that was free. I'd take that too, but not because of the status. I think that all those things, again, are entrapments. And let me just raise up a little bit here and kind of give bigger picture. What are you? You know, you're a human, yes, but at our core, at our essence, these things don't define us. We are set up to think that they do. It helps paint the picture of your lifestyle. But I believe that spirit, soul, energy, consciousness, that's who we really, really are. It embodies this physical vessel. But we have been programmed to think that these things are a necessity to define who we are. How about this view? The experiences that you create, the memorable moments that you create, the life impact, the relationships, the thoughts, the legacy. That's what I want to leave. And I could care less about the clothes I wear, the car I drive. I do think, again, hey, have some nice things. We are here to experience life. It doesn't have to be, unless you want it to be very humble, it can be. But I've often said, you could take away every single penny that I have earned to this point, take my bank account down to zero, and I will absolutely still be happy because I will start over somewhere else. I'll find a beach with a hammock and a shanty or something to just look at the sunrise and sunset and be happy and start over. I don't need all the stuff. The world functions with it. Yes, we have to have it to function. So there is a certain need for some of it. But this idea of status and labels, and yeah, I get all kinds of sideways and passionate about that topic because it's, again, a part of the system that we use to define ourselves. But it's not who we are. It's just not.
You're absolutely right. I don't know if you've ever heard the story of the fisherman.
I think I have. Well, I've definitely heard of the starfish story, the fisherman story, I think, too. But go ahead and refresh my memory.
Yeah, so the fisherman story, for those of you who already heard it, bear with me because I probably won't get it perfectly right, but that's not the point. So this fisherman, fantastic fisherman in the Caribbean, just him, his family, he goes out to fish, and he's really good at it. He's really good at it. He's got a boat. He goes out to fish. He spends his day fishing. He provides fish for his family. He's happy. And this corporate guy heard that, hey, there's this guy down there, and he really knows all the good spots to fish. So he hires him, takes him out fishing. He had a fantastic time. And the corporate guy says, hey, you're missing out on a massive opportunity here. You're sitting on a gold mine, and you don't even know it. And the fisherman goes, oh, really? So tell me more. He goes, you're a fantastic fisherman. You know all the right spots. And all you have to do, and you can become a great business owner, all you have to do is you buy a couple boats and hire a couple of other people, train them into what you do, and you can grow your company and get this really big business. And then once you get all that big business and all that money coming in from all these people coming in from tourist spots and going out to fish, then you could retire and kick back and just Spend your day fishing. And the fisherman laughed. He goes, I do that now.
Yep. What's all the need? What's
What's
all the
the need?
points? Yep.
What's the need? What's all the
As you were
point?
saying it, I'm like, yep, I know this story. And the starfish story, real quick, is just this guy walking, or this kid walking down the shore, and he's throwing out these starfish that have washed up, and somebody's observing him, saying, "What are you doing? There's thousands of starfish out here. You'll never be able to throw them all back. It doesn't matter." And he tosses one. He says, "Matter to that one."
Matter to that one. That's
Matter
right.
to that one. It's just it's perspective, and
It's all perspective. We have
not
a
allowing other
perspective.
people to define it for you. That
Yeah,
is so important.
absolutely. We have a perspective here from Divine Renovation. He goes, a thought, no one can give you confidence or happiness as a gift one gives to themselves.
Amen
You're
on
absolutely
that.
right. You're absolutely right. We author so much, and here's the deal: the more I learn, and we're chatting a little bit about this before we went live. The more I learn about neuroscience and psychology and how we think and how the world works, and basically the laws of the universe, if you will, the more I realize that we have had a really serious amount of information not given to us. Not given to us. I'm going to say it's actively withheld. It's just not provided. Okay. And here's something. We've been programmed to focus on what we don't have. So we have this, we're going around with this lack minded perspective. We're in a feeling of lack all the time. So we need more things. And we when we think about something or a situation, we think about it in a way about what we don't want to happen. Now here's something that's very interesting. So your brain is among other things, a highly advanced filter. It receives over 11 million bits of information per second, but it only cognitively processes between 4 and 14. That's a massive delta. So what does it decide to process? Well, it decides to process what you're focused on. So if you're focused on what you don't have and what you don't want, what do you think is going to happen?
You
I've
basically just
actually
described it. That's exactly what will happen. You'll get more lack.
you'll get more lack, more things you don't have. You'll get the things you don't want. That's how it works. It's really, really simple. It's totally unsexy process. That's how it works. But people don't realize that. So they spend their entire life focused on what they don't want and what they don't have and creating more of it.
It is the beauty of the neuroscience part of life, and a lot of people in the new agey world call that the law of attraction. And I say new age.
Yeah.
It's not really new age. It's been around for hundreds of years, but
Hundreds,
it's
hundreds of years.
rebranding different ways of saying things. And it's exactly the same exact point from a more scientific, less woo-woo standpoint. That's how the brain is wired. That again, it's very matter of fact, and you unconsciously program yourself, and that's why people have to really
Mhm.
walk things back, is the unconscious programming that they now autonomously run on. And that idea of, I don't have enough and I don't want to get into a position where I don't have enough. That's what you get more of, because you just automatically focus on how to keep
On not
yourself
having
in that.
enough, right? You're
Yeah, you
focused
don't
on the negative.
realize that you stay in that zone of not enough. It's
Mhm.
exactly how it works. I love
That's
how you
exactly how it
explained it.
works. Yeah, exactly how it works. And what's interesting is, and it's not that we want to stick our head in the sand, ignore, taking wild risk or something like that without any foundation. Although I've seen and heard stories of people just, if they truly have found that zone of genius, they truly are focused on quote unquote manifesting. It's not really woo woo. It's neuroscience. They were just
It is.
seeing what they want and having those opportunities be provided, like shown to them, then yeah, I mean, you would be stunningly amazed if you just experimented for like a week, really having a sense of gratitude around something that you want. Just focusing on something you want, having a sense of gratitude with it. What that does, it tells the brain, one, what you want to feel when you have whatever it is, and then what that experience is that you want. So it gives it something to focus on. So now it's filtering the right things. Pretty simple. People, tuning in probably want to know, oh, okay, so I'm doing all the right things. I'm checking all the boxes, right? I've got the career, da 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 da. But I just, yeah, just don't, I'm not feeling it. What do I do?
Yeah, I think that's something that more people need to ask themselves. And I frame it up as self-reflection. I think you need to take some time, daily, weekly, monthly. Most only
Mhm.
do it annually this time of year. It's a popular time of the year, New Year's, and reframing your mindset for next year.
Mhm.
I got news for you folks. It doesn't just flip up the calendar. Your mindset doesn't change with the calendar. Everybody wants to start with their resolutions, and you can do it any
Yeah.
time of the year. The calendar year is a good reset. But it really does start with you just stepping back and pausing and understanding, well, what is it that you really are after in life? And people, again, want to have a good living, but you got to disconnect and get out of the programming that materialistic things are more. This system and this world's not going to ever stop flashing the things in front of your face that it wants you to go spend more money on. I
Mhm.
think personally, experiences are far more valuable, and finding money, of course, making money to have those experiences are way more important. But if you want to really step outside of this, you need to do some internalization. I call it doing the work. And that's where you really step back and define for yourself why you're here. When you're gone one day, my friends, it's not going to matter the stuff that you have. No one's going to care what kind of car you drove, or what kind of house that you have
Mhm.
or had. What is the reason that you're here? I do think that we all have a purpose. It doesn't have to be against some world changing huge stage, but let's start talking about what it is that you really want to do and go create those opportunities by branching out without the fear. Remember, your comfort zone is there to keep you comfortable. I say lean in to where your fears are. Pay attention as you're self reflecting and looking at it each day or
Mhm.
week of what constant fear keeps coming up. That's a cue for you to go explore more of why you feel that way.
Right.
Don't be afraid to join some mastermind groups, or get different perspectives from people. It's great networking that can help you connect to people that are like minded, that want to help you. So you don't have to do this thing alone either. And people are often fearful of that, is that, well, who am I going to get some assistance with on this? I
Mhm.
do think it begins with the self and the internalization. But after that, it's expanding your network. It's asking questions. It's getting to know people that do the things that you want to do. I didn't have a podcast. I'm sure Aaron didn't have a podcast. I didn't have a book till I wrote one. I didn't have a website until I created one. And guess what? I knew how to do zero of those things. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm a restaurant guy by trade for 25 years. I know how to run restaurants. Not all this, but I've been working at it. And by putting
Mhm.
out that intention and with humility, putting it out
Mhm.
there, I have found the people in my life that have helped me do these things. And then, of course, to Aaron's point, the gratitude of just the pure thanks and joy and appreciation for what you're getting. It's quite beautiful whenever this
Right.
synchronicity and harmony of life comes together.
Yeah, and I think Elvis here had a thought that concurs with what you just shared with us. Thank you so much, Ken. He says, life is all about improving one's and others' well being and doing what we enjoy. Then meeting the needs eventually follows, right? So that's a great perspective. When it can be a little bit challenging to describe, but I'll do my best. So when you do find your state of flow, your state of your zone of genius, and that part of you that connects and is aligned, opportunities occur. It the good things happen because you're in that state. And why that happens? Well, you can say it's neuroscience, you can say it's other woo-woo stuff. Whatever is your cup of tea, I don't care. But that's what happens. So my deepest wish for everybody tuning in now or watching the replay, listening to the podcast is try to find that state of flow for you and connect to those gifts and talents because when you are at the fruition of your life, looking back, you're not going to wish you'd worked more, done more overtime, or bought a bigger car. That's probably not is what you're going to of wish that you had done. So consider that instead of thinking of 3 to 5 years, can put yourself way out there, way at the fruition of your life, looking back. What do you want to feel, and then what actions that resonate and are authentic to you would promote that feeling.
It's great advice, Aaron. And I'll add one more little tidbit that I think people get tripped up on to have some perspective with is allow yourself some grace and do not expect it to happen in a week or a month or 6 months. It will happen eventually. If you have a strong enough intention and a strong enough focus, you will do almost anything. I'm not saying you're going to grow wings and fly, but I'm saying physically in this world, you will create your opportunities with that intense focus. You'll be amazed with how that neuroscience works with the brain and how you focus and where you put your attention and where you take actions. The problem is it's kind of like going to the gym for one day. People go for a day or two or three and then they quit because they're not seeing instant result. That's probably an exaggeration, but maybe they go for a few weeks and quit. Or it's like gaining weight or losing weight. It doesn't usually happen instantaneously. This world of instant gratification is also, a false belief put on us. It does take time. In the physical world, things take a little bit longer to quote unquote manifest. How do they manifest? By changing your actions. And unless you strike it rich with some amazing luck that you probably created, or some amazing opportunity comes to you tomorrow, that could happen. But more often than not, it's a daily intention that then creates. Remember, the present moment is all we ever live in, folks. And that's what creates your future. Don't dwell on the past, learn from it. Don't have fear of the future. Every choice you make now is obviously what creates your future, and you're not defined by your past. You can change it by the present moment, but we're caught up in the past, worried about the future, and then guess what? We're stuck in neutral in the present because we don't focus on the now.
Yeah, we're not engaged. We're not engaged in the now, which creates the future you want. I have a saying that's every day is the first day of the rest of your life.
It really is. It's a great saying too. It's not cliche. It's the truth. What I just said 5 minutes ago is gone. It's not even a part of the present. It's the past already.
Yep.
Scary as it is.
Ken, I appreciate you sharing with us that past.
I'm happy to. It's you can go back and listen, of course, but as far as my present moment, it'll be my past, and I'll be continued to focus with intention on whatever it is that I need to continue to do for my life to bring myself the opportunities that fill my cup and make me excited about life, and doing more of these types of things, be it in a corporate setting with the folks I work with corporately, or continue to branch and do my own branding and speaking and masterminds and things that I intend to do to make a difference with purposeful intent in this world. That's what I care about most.
That's fantastic, Ken. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything you want to share with our listeners before we wrap up the show?
I would just say this. I mean, yeah, I can direct you to my website and my book and my podcast, and I will, just in case you like what you're hearing. Feel free to check out more of the work that I do, which I'll get to here in a minute. But one of the quick things I want to leave you with is just don't believe that you're some insignificant little human. That's another huge misprogrammed belief that I can't stand in this world, is that we are insignificant. And, we are a powerful species that we don't quite yet have the full capacity of realizing yet how powerful the mind is, the heart, intention, and what we can do in our lives. And that's something that I want more people to realize. And it's what I talk about and what I write about. And brave scientists are dipping their toes into epigenetics and neuroplasticity and things that we are learning that we're not wired from birth, and that hand of cards we were dealt does not say the same. It's how we play the game, all those kinds of things. But yeah, if you like this conversation, obviously check out more of Erin. She's great at what she does, and she's made this awesome for me. But we, as it said, like minds attract each other, and that's what we did here. But if you like more of what you're hearing from me, and of course, share this episode because that'll help Erin and me. But those of you who are looking at the video, this is the book. It's called Ungraduated. It's came out last February, and I have a pretty big network on my corporate side, so they helped the book jump to an Amazon bestseller in its category. It got a lot of pretty cool reviews, which to me just was more reaffirming from the universe, quote unquote, from my own intention that I'm doing the right things and that my company supported this. And, it was something that they enjoyed, and nobody was like slapping me on the wrist, like, hey, are you going to quit? What are you going to do? And they just are very supportive. But this is all on ungraduated.com. You can find the podcast and the book for Audible and whatever format you like. It's all available there, and it'll connect you to more information about mindset and belief systems and breaking out of these old, outdated programs that we've been placed within.
Well, Ken, it's been a huge pleasure having you on the show. Thank you so much for sharing that. Please do reach out to Ken, follow him, check out his podcast. And for all of you tuning in now or later, my deepest wish for you, my friends, is to keep elevating. Until next time, see you soon.
Thanks, everyone.